WCW, you worked there, and that's amazing to hear. Now, what was your experience like there? Did you ever have any conversations with Hollywood Hulk Hogan as well?
No, no. I was too low on the totem pole for that. Yeah, a lot of people. I guess the further we get away from it, a lot of people don't remember. But yeah, I got that was kind of my first big break. Back then, it was the big two. It was WWF and WCW, and for me to be able to sign a contract with one of those two was just it was something that was just huge. And I thought, man, this is the we're taking our steps and on our way. And it was about 6 months after I signed the contract. So I was in WCW the whole year of 2000 and a little bit of 2001, which was the last year they were in business. And was in there. Kind of started out as the security a lot of times for the Nitro Thunder shows, but we were also getting the guys I was coming in with. We were also getting matches on their WCW Saturday Night Show
Mhm.
and Sunday Show, which is WCW Worldwide. So we were actually getting matches on that. So I was. I mean, I think I was getting looked at. I was having really good matches, and I got to wrestle some of the best names: Booker T and Shane Douglas, Kurt Hennig. It was just, I was really getting some good experience in there with those guys, and I was having decent matches. And these weren't more, they were definitely enhancement matches, but they weren't like the WWF jobber kind of matches. These were, they were making it competitive, and these guys were very generous, giving me a lot. So yeah, it was going really well, and so I just kind of had that maybe the majority of the year, and then in October is when I signed a contract with WCW, and then like 6 months later, it was out of business. So it was just one of those things where you finally reached that, and then it's just jerked right from underneath you. So, but no, my experience was just it was really good. I mean, for someone at that point at that stage of my career, it was kind of my first taste being around for a longer time in the big time and seeing how everything was working. I didn't know about all the inside stuff going on. I wasn't privy to that. I know 2000 was just it just started sinking fast. But I didn't know any of that. I was just the young guy looking at it. And I was I'm standing there in my security shirt and I'm watching these angles happen and I'm thinking that's where I need to be. I don't need to be here in the security shirt. I need to. That's where I want to be. So it just kind of fuels that hunger, man. I mean, I just it just makes you want to work even harder to try to get in those spots. But my experience, I had great experience and got the right up and down the rows with some guys and doing these great shows and having some really good matches. So it was just an overall good experience for me. I mean, it ended. It was a disappointing ending, but my time there, I felt like I was on my way.
Well, it's amazing that you were there in the year 2000 because in today's world, people compare other companies to WCW 2000 as being such like a black mark on them. But I don't think they hear stories like yours, like the experience that you are. You're your big break. You're here in this big company. You're getting paid to be a professional wrestler, but they're all looking at it as like the big picture. And with WCW going out of business and a series coming out, the death of WCW, what do you
Yeah.
believe really is the death of WCW?
So my opinion, and I've listened to everybody involved. I've heard everybody tell their stories, and it's just so easy to point the finger at one individual, no matter who it might be. Just it's so easy to do that, whether it's Russo, Bischoff, Hogan. I mean, just but I've tried to take all of that and put it together. And honestly, the common denominator was Turner Broadcasting, was the TV. I don't think if you put anybody in the driver's seat, it just seems like they were fighting an uphill battle. That the program just did not want them around any. They didn't want wrestling, so they were fighting. I think it was just a headache to to fight to get things accomplished. So, people are going to blame Russo, but he was kind of fighting the politics, and then even Bischoff, he'd been the head of it for so long, but he was kind of fighting it too. So it was just, I just think a lot of that. People were just in panic mode. So, you're trying to turn it around overnight, and it just wasn't happening. And I think the big picture, they were just um, fighting the corporate world and just couldn't win because how many times have we heard it? That they just didn't want wrestling on their TV anymore. So that's really what I think it is. It's not a certain angle. It's not a certain person. All of that definitely contributed. There's no doubt about it. We could shake our heads at so many things we would watch on TV in 2000, but WCW. But yeah, I just think as a whole, it was an uphill battle. It was a fight, and the angles, yeah, there was a lot of them that just didn't work, and it certainly added to it. But I don't think there's any one angle or one person to blame. I just think it was going to happen.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And for years, people would blame, say, like they use example of a finger poke of doom or Goldberg being tasered. But then, honestly, I did read this book by Guy Evans. It's pretty much the actual incredible rise and collapse of Ted Turner's WCW, and it really just interviews executives, not wrestlers, executives, and their perspective on what you just exactly said is they didn't want wrestling. So they pretty much would take money from one failing company, dump it into WCW, and be like, "Well, it's not doing what we want it to do." So weird stuff that you'd want to buy a company and then have it just collapse underneath itself, which is just one of the
Yeah,
weirdest things ever.
it's
I don't know.
hard to understand. That'd be a good read though if it's from the executive, so
Yeah,
that we could hear it from their side. Just to like you said, you're agreeing that they were saying they didn't want wrestling. So
right. It's crazy to think that at one point it's the highest point ever.